Here's the latest from the CFWE newsroom. I'm Jeremy Harp. More than 300 Albertans gathered at Churchill Square yesterday and thousands across Canada to mark the 10th annual Memorial March and Vigil for Canada's missing and murdered Aboriginal women and girls. Events in Edmonton and across the country are part of a national call for a public inquiry into the matter. Some people hung red dresses outside as a way to commemorate lost loved ones. Indigenous activists estimate more than 3,000 Aboriginal women alone have been victims of homicide since back in 1980. The RCMP's latest reports estimate there have been about 1,181 cases of murdered or missing Aboriginal women since then. Conservative leader Stephen Harper has indicated he will not participate in the all-forum federal leaders debate to be hosted by the Assembly of First Nations October 7th in Enoch. Now, NDP leader Thomas Mulcair says his presence is contingent on the Conservative leader being there. He says this debate is a key opportunity for the party leaders to explain how their government would work to close the gap in the equality of life between First Nations and Canada. Again, the all-forum federal leaders debate will be hosted by the Assembly of First Nations October 7th in Enoch. An Aboriginal reserve cut off from the mainland and under a boil water advisory for almost 2 decades is taking its case to the United Nations. Shoal Lake 40 First Nation, which straddles the Manitoba-Ontario boundary, became isolated a century ago during construction of an aqueduct. The reserve has no all-weather road and has been without clean water for 17 years. A delegation from the reserve is expected to travel to Geneva in February to make its own case. We will finally get a look at the NDP government's budget on October 27th. The document will reflect the difficulty of dealing with the drop in oil prices, but Finance Minister Joe Ceci says they will stay the course as much as they can. Ceci says during his time in getting public input on the budget, he heard a lot about diversifying the economy so we're less reliant on the roller coaster of the prices of oil. He puts the blame on that dependence on the PC government. The minister wasn't offering up many details on the plan, but says they will stabilize public services while creating jobs and growing the economy. Many of those main points, he says, were that he heard in his talks with the public. Ceci says he was able to meet with hundreds and reach out to thousands of people in public meetings and telephone town halls. Hunting and conservation groups in Alberta are urging Ottawa to do more to fight a fatal contagious disease spreading through wild deer and elk populations. Chronic wasting disease, also known as CWD, is caused by abnormal proteins called prions and is similar to mad cow disease. The Alberta Fish and Game Association and the Saskatchewan Wildlife Federation say they want a complete review of how Ottawa is dealing with CWD and for federal political leaders to say where they stand on the issue. Experts say there is no scientific evidence to suggest that CWD can affect humans, but there are fears the disease could potentially lead to trade restrictions on agriculture exports.